Okay, this is the 15th public service announcement from filedevidence.com, Exhibit 15. And of course, this is constitutional First Amendment rights, and the Whistleblowing Act protects this full disclosure for the 15th public service announcement. With Artho Economics serving others as an international consultant of economic and government choices. Of course, this is a letter to the international law reporters for their law archives on new case law changes. And this 15th public service announcement reconfirms Exhibit 14's 6.7 RICO money laundering scams, price-fixing bid advantage on the 5 simultaneously filed courthouse step sales. If I had allowed the bank to take all 7 ranches on the courthouse step without fighting them, which of course forced me to file bankruptcy protection to keep this from happening. Now, in Exhibit 15, the felon Texas Bank Director's lawyer's son willingly joins the RICO liability pyramid. And what he did, he verbally slandered the title of my Lone Star Retail Housing Development by fraudulently proclaiming to a fellow multiple listing service realtor with an outright lie. And he told the realtor, we own the land around the Wildorado school site, saying that I didn't own it, that he did, or they did. Now this verbally slanders my title on the Lone Star Retail Housing Development, which I was in the process through Artho Economics. I was going through the process of donating land to for the school to subsidize, to encourage infrastructure and education as a handout. Now, Artho Economics is a wag the dog type deal through positive cash flow opportunities. And this land donation that I was in the process of increases the value of my Lone Star Retail Housing Development because everybody will start developing around the school site I donated to the Wildorado School for their new school. This also is a positive cash flow opportunity for the economy of Wildorado because it will increase their tax base and increase their economy through a free land donation, and the taxpayers won't have to buy land for this site. So it's basically a win-win. This is what Artho Economics wag the dog means. Things can be done in a positive way and a win-win for everyone. Now, unfortunately, the felon Texas Bank Director lawyer's boy cried wolf. And this intentional negative cash flow by corruption slandered my title. And Amarillo being a small city, of course rumors fly everywhere. But besides finding the fact that they waltzed into the courthouse and changed legal descriptions to illegal descriptions, these rumors kept me from refinancing the Lone Star Retail Housing Development that was paid for, or from selling it or trading it. Now, this boy who cried wolf, this boy never owned the Lone Star Retail Housing Development whatsoever, and he lied about it, and he buried false witness against me. Now, bearing false witness against you has been frowned upon for thousands and thousands of years. Anyway, the boy's father, or the Texas Felon Bank Director lawyer, and or the boy's father's law firm negative cash flow by corruption by fraudulently posting a foreclosure never owned my Lone Star Retail Housing Development whatsoever. Again, this is why I was forced to file bankruptcy to shut them down. Now remember, our nation's first line of defense is through Artho Economics is peacetime's accountability of corruption and or the court's responsibility to tax and fine and to discourage corruption. In other words, the court's job is to put a lid on corruption, not to join in on it and provide short-term ill-gotten gains for the felons who have done it. However, the new case law changes chose this negative cash flow by corruption in spite of their constitutional oath of office, the rule of law, and against my constitutional rights under the 14th Amendment of equal protection of the law. Now the government's, those within the new case law changes, they know the law, they understand what they're doing, and yet this is what they chose. Now under international economics, international consulting on economics and government choices. Again, international markets simply do not care and they don't fear which nations' courts have chosen negative cash flow of corruption over and above peacetime's accountability and a positive cash flow opportunity to increase their own nation's economy. While knowing full well such new case law changes will eventually collapse our nation's own economy, the economic prosperity of all mankind, and eventually world peace, because eventually when a nation gets in trouble financially, not cash flowing, then comes this saber rattling and stuff to try to prop up their bad choices. And again, what did you think was going to happen? And it's really irrelevant to why the RICO liability pyramid chose the government confiscation against my positive cash flow opportunities to take my land in excessive amount of equity and assets to support those within the RICO liability pyramid's racketeered economic treason of a negative cash flow by corruption and the new case law changes that will be used in any court from this day forth. And whether it's irrelevant or misinformed of their organized political party, their organized religion, or their organized cartel agendas of superiority, discrimination, or simply greed's ill-gotten gains, it really doesn't matter. The end results are the same of anybody's racketeered economic treason, which causes the usual and the inevitable. And history reflects this time and time again, and even current events show it time and time again. When you resort to these negative cash flow by corruption, next comes the usual food shortages via the negative cash flow by corruption and discrimination against others. Next comes the usual government confiscation and are denying tax-paying commoners rights to keep and bear arms against their own government. In other words, it's pretty easy to take over the tax-paying commoners when they don't have the right to arms to defend themselves against their own corruption within their own government. And next comes the usual wars, inhumanity inflicted by the politicians' prior negative cash flow. Now they're forced to commandeer even more tax-paying commoners' land and assets. Now they'll be invading the neighboring nations that are weak and unarmed to commandeer even more land and assets to temporarily prop up an economy that wasn't cash flowing in the first place with these kind of policies. Oh, never will. And history has shown time and time again these negative cash flow by corruption, and it's just leads to the inhumanities of war. And one of the victims was a man named Martin Niemöller, and he gave this famous quote: "As the same results of the usual egotistical dictator like Hitler's Nazi ideologies." And Martin, his quote is, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out. I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me."